Hey, good afternoon, my people. What's up? Hope and trust that all is going good and you're having a good Friday. Today being Friday, the third day of April 2026, and the time is 12:26 p.m. Well, a few days ago, it was in the news that Anderson Carty would have had a matter with the court. There was an order against him, and he felt that the order was not right, and he went to court. He went to the appeals court, as far as the appeals court, and the decision was reversed. Um, Apparently, a judgment came down from the industrial court, which he wasn't in favor of, and on a radio program, he expressed his displeasure with it, and the court took a particular view of it, and they thought that he was in contempt of court, and they made an order that he ought to apologize, and Carty was of the opinion that he was not wrong. He had freedom of speech. He could express exactly what he thought. The judgment having been made public, and he felt he wasn't wrong. He was going to apologize, and he went about seeking to get the order overturned, which eventually it was a few days ago. I commented on it. I was looking to see the video that I did. I don't see it up to now, but I did comment on it, and I said then, who's going to pay damages for the 2 years that he wasn't allowed to practice? At the time when I said that, I didn't know that Carty had given an interview and he said on the news that he was going to sue for damages. So he's going to be suing us, the taxpayers, and if he's successful, which I believe he will be, taxpayers will be called upon to pay another bill that, in my opinion, did not have to go that way. You know what I mean? But time will tell you that. God spare life. I'm sure I'll speak to it when that happens. So Carty did grow some balls, as you see there on my backdrop. Carty did grow some balls, and he was convinced that his rights were being trampled upon, and he went about fighting for them. And I must give him commendation for that. I say that, or I use that against the backdrop that I read an article a few days ago, as a matter of yesterday, on the Antigua Newsroom portal. ABWU, that's Antigua Barbuda Workers Union, warns of slow minimum wage rollout with deepening worker hardship. And I would have done a video again also dealing with what I was hearing in relation to the minimum wage. And I was saying in that minimum wage, sorry, I was saying in that recording that the minimum wage committee sits for every 2 years. So I did not know where this third year came in. That was my observation at the time. But I said I was going to wait to see what would have come out. I'm trying to get the order that the Minister of Labor would have to sign. I haven't gotten that as yet. I'm going to try to get that after the holidays. But based on this article, and I'm not going to read the whole article. Persons can go look at it. Again, it's on the Antigua Newsroom website, the 2nd of April. ABW wants slow minimum wage rollout will deepen worker hardship. The Antigua Barbuda Workers Union acknowledges the government decision to increase the national minimum wage from $9 to $11.50 effective the 1st of April 2026 as part of a phased increase toward 13.01 per hour. This adjustment represents blah 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 blah. Notwithstanding this progress, the ABW was surprised by the sudden announcement of the effective date and the rate of the initial increase. Right? Skipping down, then it says the ABW remains confident that the increments and timelines proposed by the committee, that is the minimum wage committee, to the cabinet presents a more effective pathway to achieving the targeted $13.01 minimum wage. So the ABW forms a part of the union representation on the National Minimum Wage Committee. If I'm not mistaken, it would be ABW, AT&LU. I think the Free Trade Union have a representative there. I'm not sure if any other unions are there. But ABW is a part of that group. Continuing, the committee's recommendation, that is the Minimum Wage Committee recommendation to the cabinet, outlined a two-phased approach, commencing with an increase of $12.50 in July 2006 and culminating at $13.01 by January 2027. In contrast, the cabinet proposed timeline extends implementation over three phases, delaying the full adjustment to 1301 until 2028. 3 phases being 3 years. And that is what I was speaking about in my last video. I maintain up to this day, the government has no such mandate under the law. The minimum wage committee sits every 2 years. And as far as I'm concerned, when I look at what was the situation the last time it became $9. $9 became effective from the 1st of January 2023. Right? The 1st of January 2023. That's the wrong thing I'm trying to pull up there. Boy, when you hear want to do something, this computer's just slow you down. Anyway, I think it was the $9 became effective the 1st of January 2023. So that should have been applicable for 23 and 24. The minimum wage committee should have been sitting for 25 and 26. Right? That's according to the law. Again, I went over that already. I'm not about to go over that whole thing there again, to be honest with you. But going back to the article and what it was that that piqued my interest. This is this paragraph here that says, it's the third to last paragraph. I think it's the third to last paragraph, yes. The ABW urges the government to adhere to its statutory obligation, that is to tell it, it's saying the government, go by the law. That is what guides you. Under section C21 and C22 of the Antigua and Barbuda Labor Code, which mandate the convening of the National Minimum Wage Advisory Committee every 2 years. So Workers Union is showing to the government, which I would have done in a video a few days ago, what guides the government in how and for the length of time that the National Minimum Wage Advisory Committee sits and works for. Right? So what is upsetting me, and that's why I went with this. I said, please grow some balls, right? Now, if the unions, the major unions, who are tasked with the duty of looking out for the poor class workers, right? They would have the monies from contributions and from the investment of those union dues, etc., right? If these major unions is aware of this, why aren't they proceeding to court to get judgment to force the government to abide by the law that it should be abiding by? Why aren't they doing that? And that is why I give high commendations to Anderson Carty, because he felt that, hey, my rights is being trampled upon, and I'm going to the court to force them to do the right thing. And he was successful. So why aren't the major unions, why aren't they going to court when the workers' union, rightfully so, can outline and show to the government what the law says you're supposed to be doing? So no, we're just going to hear an article or read an article, and then nothing happens, and the government do what it wants. Because what? If unions can't fight that battle, poor workers can do it. And we wonder why this country is the way it is. We wonder why this country is the way it is. Because the union, I am not saying nothing that ATNL don't know. I'm not saying nothing that ABW don't know. You see it right here. I'm not saying nothing that Free Trade Union don't know. I'm not saying nothing that the Public Service Association Union don't know. But what make they can't do it individually or come together and force the government to follow the law they're supposed to be following. And we wonder why this country is going the way it is. Take care, my people. Enjoy the Easter weekend and keep safe. Bless up.